got something for you to check out today, brand new from Friedman. This is the IR-D dual tube preamp. Now the preamp is very important in the title of this particular product because that's really what it is. I think the mistake is sometimes with these type of pedals that you assume that the tubes are being used just to warm up the signal or whatever. In this case, Friedman is actually running two 12AX7 tubes as an integral part of the preamp. In fact, the preamp is basically the exact same as the preamp in Friedman's Dirty Shirley or twin sister amplifiers. Now those amplifiers are Dave's take on the classic JTM 45 UK amplifier. It's a nice crunchy amp. It also gives great clean sounds. You can push it up into high gain, and it's got some of Friedman's trademark features as well, which we'll go through. So let's take a closer look. Now you may remember a while back I did a video on the Friedman IR-X, which was their first preamp pedal. I still love the IR-X. In fact, I've got one on my pedal board. You can see that here. I use this with my silent stage rig with my rock band. The IR-D has a little different flavor. With the IR-X, you had a plexi channel and you had the BE channel, Friedman's BE channel. Now here we have two identical channels, so it's more like the twin sister amplifier from Friedman. So on the top, we have one channel. Bottom, we have another channel, very obvious probably, but they're absolutely identical in their features. So we have a gain control on the input. We'll come back to the two switches. We have bass, middle, treble, and then volume for each channel. Each channel also has its own independent boost circuit. The gain for those is set with these trimmers on the side here, and then we have a volume for those boosts as well. So you really have a 4-channel amplifier. In fact, that's the way I've got this set up. So I've got my clean sound here. If I engage the boost for that channel, we're getting a crunchier tone because that boost is driving in. Turn that off, go to channel 2. I've got that set for a big crunchy tone, and when I step on its boost, we get a nice fat lead tone. Now in addition to having independent gain controls, independent boost controls, independent EQ for each channel, we also have these two switches here. The first, labeled S1, is the structure switch, and this is a proprietary Friedman feature that's found on some of their amplifiers. Basically it sets up the gain structure for the channel. So if we look at this first channel here, I've got it set in the center position. That's the lowest gain structure. If we push it down, we get the next step up. And if we push that up all the way, we get our highest gain structure. So again, that allows us to really fine-tune what's happening with the amplifier's gain structure. So we can set up a clean channel, we can set up a lead, we can have 2 crunch channels, 2 lead channels, however you want to do it. The Friedman IR-D can certainly do it for you. The second switch is the bright tight switch. In the bottom position where I have it now, we've got nice tight bottom end. If we push that switch up, we get the brighter setting. I've got it set down here for a little rounder tone. So on the top channel, I've got the structure switch in the middle, the lowest gain. I've got the bright tight switch down. On channel 2, I'm actually at the middle level on the structure switch, which is down on the switch, and I'm also set in the down setting on the bright tight switch. Now if we push up the bright for that, gives us a little bit more articulation on the top end. But one of the most powerful features of the IR-D is that it also has built-in IR loading and power amp simulation. So we come into the input, we've got a very transparent effects loop, which we'll look at in just a second, and then we come out, it's a balanced output. We have our boost, as I mentioned here, but next to the boost volume pot, we've got the cabinet IR. You can have 3 cabinets loaded up for each channel, and you can select them independently. So we've got 3 IRs available for channel 1, and we can have 3 completely different IRs available for channel 2. And when you purchase an IR-D, you get 13 IRs that Dave Friedman has created. The top position, as you take it out of the box, is Dave's favorite 4x12 cabinet. And this is the one that he uses for voicing all of his amplifiers. It's a bare wood cabinet with no covering on it. In the middle position, we've got our second IR that's loaded into the box. And in this case, we've got an 80s 4x12 that's loaded with 20-watt Celestion greenbacks. The third selection, right now, what's loaded in here is a Dirty Shirley 1x12 cabinet. So that really dramatically changes the voicing of the preamp. If we go from Dave's favorite 4x12, that 80s 4x12, and the 1x12, And again, we can do that independently for the two channels. So the way I've had it set so far is I have had the clean channel, or channel 1, set up to run through that favorite 4x12 of Dave's, and I've got the channel 2, which is my crunchy channel, running through the middle selection, which is the 80s 4x12. Lots of tone shaping there, but it's not just an IR. We also have power amp simulation there as well. And in fact, you can use this as an IR loader. If you come into the effects return, you'll go straight into that power amp simulation through the IR and back to the output. So you could use this with other amplifier simulators if you wanted to. Although it sounds so fantastic, whether or not you want to do that, I guess, is up to you. Now, I mentioned that effects loop a couple of times here. That's on the back panel here. We've got a send and a return. In this case, I have a Keeley Omni reverb in the loop. So if I engage that, the loop is very transparent, but we can also choose to bypass that by holding down the channel 2 switch. Of course, you could also run effects after the IR-D. In this case, I've got a Meraki pedal from Walrus Audio, a stereo delay. So I'm coming out of the output of the IR-D into the delay pedal and then in stereo into my DAW. The IR-D also works very well with pedals in front of it, gain pedals, wah pedals, all those kind of things. I have a Wampler Triumph overdrive here, so if we go back to our clean channel, hit the Triumph. We can go to channel 2, leave that drive on. Bring in a little reverb. Add our delay if we want. You get the idea. The IR-D really serves as the centerpiece. It becomes the amplifier for your entire rig. You can build a complete pedal board around it, which is what I did with the IRX, and the IR-D is just as capable. And you can switch among 128 different presets using MIDI if you like as well. All the switch settings, channel settings, boost settings, all those kind of things are stored as part of your preset. And that brings me to another important feature of the IR-D, and that's the software editor, which I have running over here on this computer. You can see with this editor, you get an image of the front panel. You can control the different switches, so we can change channels. Our clean channel, we can go to channel 2. We can select our IRs here as well. So I'm on channel 2. And we have additional features within the pedal that we can address only from within the software. So each channel has its own presence control as part of that amplifier simulation. So we're on channel 1 here. 3 different presence settings and also 3 different thump settings. So you can fine-tune that power amp simulation in the IR-D using the software. We can also choose to lock the boost function. So if I turn that on, boost is now on channel 2. If we go to channel 1, no boost, go back to channel 2, and the boost is still on. That's a very handy feature because, again, you can set that up as part of a MIDI program, so you can be recalling different setups. The boost will stay on or off depending on where you're at. We can also, within the software, bypass the loop, which again you do by holding down the channel 2 switch on the pedal itself. We can bypass the IRs if you want to use this as a preamp into a power amplifier on stage or as part of a more complex rig. You can do that by bypassing the IRs here. You can also do that by holding down the first foot switch on the pedal itself. So a ton of capability here, but what's super cool is how good it sounds. I mean, it is really authentic sounding because what you have is a true tube preamp. This isn't a simulation. This isn't tubes being used to warm up the signal or anything like that. This is actually the tube channel from the Dirty Shirley amplifier, two of them that are identical that you can set up for different tones with their own independent boosts. So you can use this for a silent stage, self-contained basically because of those built-in IRs. You could use this as a preamp in front of another amplifier. You could use this as an IR loader for another preamp or an amplifier. So it's very versatile and definitely can serve as a centerpiece of either a stage or a studio rig. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Friedman IR-D. An amazing pedal, sounds fantastic, all that Friedman magic is there, and it's a real preamplifier, so it feels like you're plugged into an amplifier when you're playing through it, in addition to sounding like you're playing through an amplifier. I love the IRX, and I'm definitely going to be adding the IR-D to my collection. If you need more information on the Friedman IR-D dual tube preamp or any of Friedman's products, it's all waiting for you at sweetwater.com, or give your Sweetwater sales engineer a call. They'll be happy to tell you all about all of Friedman's products.